On Thursday Night Football, 30-22 over the Saints. They improved their wild card odds as I believe the Rams, with the tiebreaker over the Seahawks, sitting in the catbird seat, as the kids say, for one of those wild card spots. And Oregon State and Washington State have settled with the other 10 member schools regarding a payout. An undisclosed amount of revenue will be forfeited. We'll talk some NFL with Frank Schwab coming up in hour number 3, but it is a feel-good Friday. It is a football Friday. It is a fancy coffee Friday. It is a festive Feliz Navidad Friday. We start right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Friday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Friday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show. Chauncey Phillips says we haven't got any alphas. Now, if only one radio host in this town maybe has asked that question a couple of times. Oh, I don't know. We'll dive into what is Chauncey Phillips talking about? Who is he talking to? Because coaches, even coaches with little experience like Chauncey Phillips has just in his third year, but coaches, when they make statements to the media like that, it's for a purpose. There's somebody in mind. We've all, I don't know if we've all been in these situations, but like, boy, I know I have, where it's like, coach comes in and says, all right, that's it. Everybody gather around, take a knee. Now, this is the high school version because obviously I was not good enough to play at a level where any media cared. No reporters outside of the News Review. Shout out to the News Review. Or KQEN down in Roseburg. Like, nobody cared about our games. But we've all been there where the coach was like, all right, we got some guys that aren't taking things seriously. Now, I'm not going to name any names. We've all heard that speech, right? We've got some people on this team who aren't 100% committed, who aren't 100% bought in. Now, I'm not going to say any names. Like, our high school football coach would give us the we got a couple of guys speech and would go all but say their name rhymes with Mustin Gyres. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, we got a couple of guys who aren't committed, who feel like they can just screw around during practice. And so we would all get that speech. At the highest level, at the professional level, when you get a head basketball coach in the NBA saying, we don't got any alphas. We got good players. We got potential all-stars. We got a lot of talent. We don't got any alphas. That's a message to somebody. And so we're going to talk about that coming up in about 15 minutes about who is Chauncey Phillips talking about. But another game, another frustrating loss right there. This is just going to be all year, isn't it, Brendan? This is going to be all year. Right? It's like whether it was, the Warriors game with the timeout, whether it was, what was the game where Kamara threw the ball under his own basket? Was that the Jazz?
I think that sounds right, but they all kind of blur together.
I mean, it's one after another where it's like, man, you guys are right there. Another day, though, another slow start, and I think that's also what Chauncey Phillips was talking about with his alpha speech was we can't keep overcoming all these slow starts. Came back from a 22-point deficit against the Suns. I think it got to like 18 at one point last night that the Blazers had to overcome. Never led in the game, but had the ball in the final seconds. Oh, Anthony Simons had a lay-in. He had a shot right there. DeAndre Ayton had a shot at one point, and then Jeremy Grant had 3 shots to take the lead within the final minutes of the game. And the Blazers just could not find the bottom of the hole, so it's like, whoa. So this is just life in the this one stinks, though, a little bit because you can kind of say, like, there's a talent gap with the Warriors, right? That's still Steph Curry over there. Yeah, you held him with no 3-pointers, but that's Clay and Steph, right? And the Jazz, it's a team that's – now, there was that one bad loss where the Jazz essentially didn't play any, but the Wizards stink. This is a bad loss. The fact that it was clear in the fourth quarter and really it was clear in the second half that while the Blazers are going to have a talent gap and they're going to have inferior talent while they play about, 80%, 90% of the teams on their schedule, they are not going to have better talent then, or experienced talent, I should say. The Wizards ain't one of those teams. You get the Wizards at home, other than Shaden, you're relatively healthy. Ant goes off for 41 points. And you can't find the bucket in the close. This one is a frustrating loss.
I will say this. Kuz is really good.
He's pretty good.
I've always liked Kuz, man.
What do you got, 32?
Something like that. I've always liked Kuz. But you're right. That's a bad Wizards team. I mean, I don't even know what Jordan Poole put up last night.
13 points for Jordan Poole last night. It was not his night. He was 0 of 4 from 3. Jordan Poole didn't put up a ton of points. But that's it. That's a team that's in the same spot where the Blazers are, right? They're going to be looking for ping pong balls come April.
And you're at home.
And other than Shaden, you're relatively healthy. And, as we mentioned, Anthony Simons got 41 points. So I know that you have been telling me all season long, and it's still a very short season because it's not even Christmas yet. By the way, hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. This is going to be the Christmas Spectacular. We're going to try not to be so negative. We're going to have some fun on the show today because it is not only a festive Feliz Navidad Friday, it's also a football Friday. It's a feel-good Friday, and it's Fancy Coffee Friday. We're going to open that up here in just a moment. But we can just get our gripes out real quick because while Christmas is a time of holiday cheer, it's also a time for some year-end gripes, right? Well, Festivus, right? I don't know, Brendan, are you familiar with Festivus?
Festivus for the rest of us?
That's right, and the airing of the grievances. And I got a lot of problems with you people, and it's like, you came in this morning, you were talking about this team, and I think I've come almost to a calm with this team. I think me and you have almost switched places with regard to this team, which is funny because it's not even Christmas yet, where I'm like, this is just going to be what it is all year.
The record gets worse, just like I look up and go, they're 7-20.
They're 7-20.
Like, ugh.
All right, so this is my question I had last night as I was laying down, going to bed, and thinking about what are we going to talk about on the show. This was my question, and then I woke up and found out Chauncey Billups talking about alphas, which we're going to talk about later. But here's my question, because you and I and probably most Blazers, we watch the Blazers in a vacuum, right? Sure, if the Bucks and the Sixers are on TNT at the 4:30 game, I'll watch that. But for the most part, I'm not a league pass guy. You know what I mean? I'm watching the Blazers night in and night out. And other than the TNT games or the ESPN games, I'm not intricately watching the NBA, which is why we have great guests on this particular program. And it's why I will always say, I'm kind of a basketball. I like the Blazers. I talk about the Blazers. That's the team we cover. And you see this team and you go Ant's really good. He 41 points. See DeAndre Ayton is I can kind of see, I would say even with some of the frustrations of last night, DeAndre Ayton, upgrade from Nurk, right? We all saw again the other night, Nurk in the fourth quarter, falling away, airball lay-ins, and it's all right. So he's not that. What did DeAndre go for last night? For 23 and 16. So DeAndre Ayton's obviously number 1 overall pick, not made an all-star team yet, but you can see it there. Jeremy Grant's a guy gets buckets, right? He's a scorer. You can kind of see, Scoot coming along. He's going to have peaks and valleys, but he's a rookie. And you look do you think that if we took a month and watched another team that we could maybe convince ourselves, well, there's a lot of talent. It's I was thinking about that last night. Is there really a lot of talent and potential in this Blazer team? Or are these just NBA guys and everybody in the NBA is really good? Because I watch the NFL, right? And even the bad teams, you're they're still in the NFL, right? Even the Carolina Panthers, even though Bryce Young hasn't quite popped, you watch the Carolina Panthers, you're still really good players on this team. There's still a lot of talent. A couple of things go here and there. And you look at what's happening with the Texans, right? The Texans last year were one of the worst teams in the NFL. If it wasn't for a Week 18 go for two, they would have had the number one pick. But they didn't. Was that Lovie Smith, who was interim coach? Went for two, gave up the number one pick last week. But guess what? Texans got a new coach. They got C.J. Stroud. There's still a bunch of NFL players on that team, and they're going to make the playoffs this year. Probably. So I'm just wondering, like, we keep saying, there's a lot of talent there. I see it. There's a lot of talent there. Is there? Or is it just these guys are all in the NBA? There's Ant, DeAndre, Brogdon, Grant, like good players. But like Chauncey Billups said, are there any alphas on this team? Because there's a difference. And, of course, Blazer Twitter, I saw this morning, Blazer Twitter got all up in a tizzy. And it's like, right now, I've asked Pounce this probably every week. Brendan, no, I brought this up. I'm like, who's the alpha? Whose team is this? Because no team has ever won a championship with just a collection of good dudes. Somebody at some point goes, my bleeping team, get on my back, let's go. Every great team. And obviously the ultimate end goal of all this tanking and trading and salary dumping and rebuilding, the whole end goal better be championship. That's the whole goal. But at some point, somebody on this roster has to take over and has to be like, yep, my team. Dame was an alpha. There was no doubt when he walked on the court who was in charge. No doubt whatsoever. So much so that at the end of that game last night, Anthony Simons got 41 points. Anthony Simons got 22 points in the fourth bleeping quarter. You got the ball with 5 seconds. Because you know what? Matisse Thybulle, he may not be an alpha, but he's a dog. Matisse Thybulle with a great defensive play. Then they get the review. Then he gets the tip ball. Blazers get the timeout. Let's advance it. I've been playing like crap all night. Let's find a way to maybe make some lemonade out of these lemons. Jeremy Grant, running left-hander, didn't even catch rim. Because coming out of the huddle, who's getting the ball, right? You look at every contending team in the in the NBA, every contending team in that situation. You give me a team, I'll tell you who's getting the ball. I'll tell you who's getting the ball in that situation. Blazer, I didn't have Jeremy Grant running left-hander in my Blazer end-of-game bingo card. Now, is that coaching? Is that on the player's person? Is that on Anthony Simons not going into the huddle going like, hey, I got 41. This play, I don't like it. Me. Because Dame got the ball every time. We knew it. Didn't have to shoot it every time, but he was going to be involved somehow. Anthony Simons not involved in the final play. Is that coaching? Is that on Ant? We'll talk about that. But before we dive into all of that, before we continue with the rest of the show, it may be an upcoming holiday weekend, but there is a tradition on this particular program. And you know what? Maybe you need it more than ever because the hustle and bustle of holidays can get to all of us. Maybe you have been putting off some of your holiday shopping. Maybe you haven't even bought your stocking stuffers yet. Who knows? Maybe you've got family flying in later today that you are not maybe particularly excited to see. Guess what? Take a little break from all that stress and join us in a moment of joy and happiness as you upgrade your caffeinated beverage this morning, because you have earned it with a little treat we like to call Fancy Coffee Friday. Let's go.
You've waited all week. It's time to treat yourself for Fancy Coffee Friday.
Friday is Fancy Coffee Friday. And you know what? Fancy coffee hits each and every Friday, but man, it hits a little bit different when you got a 4-day weekend coming up. Oh boy. And you know what? To all of you out there who have to maybe nose to the grindstone this weekend, who do not have the benefit that Brendan and I have and some of us else who can take away these next couple of days and just enjoy it. And you got to maybe get out there and deliver some packages. You got to work a shift at the retail store. You got to get to the grocery store because goofballs like me forgot the cheese or whatever. You've worked your tail off all week. You've worked your tail off all year. And we salute each and every one of you. The hardest working listening audience in all of radio. Do I know it with quantifiable stats? Nope. I feel it in my gut. And you know what? Around the holidays, Brendan, I feel it in my heart. So to all of you out there, we're getting it done day in and day out. For all of you out there who, like us, used up all your PTO and did not have these next 2 weeks to take off, unlike the rest of this office, and you are on your way to work this morning, or maybe you're on your way to the airport, to pick up that one aunt or uncle that maybe you aren't all that excited to see. Well, you know what? Stop off. Upgrade your beverage. You have earned it. Get yourself a fancy coffee here on a Fancy Coffee Friday. Oh. That is holiday cheer in a cup right there. All right. Very excited about it. We're going to talk alpha and beta. No, not frat bros. Are alphas made or are alphas born? Nature versus nurture. We're going to get deep into the woods next. 620 Rip City Radio. school football in the 90s was ruined by the movie Rudy. Right? Because everybody, it was ruined by the movie Rudy. Grew up in middle school and everybody watched Rudy, and all of a sudden everybody thought they were going to be old Rudy Rudiger out there. And it was like, it's different at Notre Dame with Sean Astin as opposed to being on the practice field in Winston, Oregon for the Douglas Trojans. That was my experience, or wherever your experience was. And if you were at all a football player in the 90s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And coaches loved it. And we would get all these, these rah-rah speeches about who's going to be a leader on this team. We would get that speech once a week. All right, it's like, yeah, that guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame, he's in charge, right? Because there are leaders, and then there are alphas. And everybody probably knows the difference. Leaders are anointed. Hey, you're a team leader. You're a captain. And then there are alphas, which means when it gets right down to it, who's in charge? And I've seen it in college football a ton. Brendan, I'm sure you've seen it a ton in college football as well, where it's like, yeah, that guy's a captain. That guy's a good quote. That guy's a team leader. That's the alpha. Whatever he says clearly goes. He may be a captain as well, but because I believe alphas are born, I think it's a wiring. It could maybe be a learned trait where it's like, we need some team leaders out here. Yeah. When I was growing up, it's like, we had great team leaders and captains. It's like, yeah, that fast dude who's going to be in the NFL, guess what? He's in charge. He's in charge. We're not like, everybody else can be a captain if you want. Whatever Troy says goes, because he's the alpha. That's why he was two-time All-American, and that's why the man's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So, I have a smidge of knowledge about this, which is why I bring it up a lot. I've also told this story so much my wife hates it. But I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky in my life to be in some rooms with some very important people. I don't know how or why I got in the room, but I've been very lucky. And you walk into rooms with certain people, whether they are former players, former coaches, current coaches, and you just know when an alpha walks in the room. You just know it. The story I'm talking about, I did not grow up as a Cowboys fan. I'm not a Cowboys hater, but I did not grow up as a Cowboys fan. I was in Seattle. I was covering Sunday Night Football. And at the time, the Sunday Night Football crew, or excuse me, it wasn't Sunday Night Football. It was Fox. It was the Fox 1 o'clock game. And it was Joe Buck and it was Troy Aikman. And again, I did not grow up a Cowboys fan, but I've been there, and I'm sitting in the press box, and I'm eating my free omelet, and I've got my free Starbucks, and basically I just went for the free food, life of a radio host, and all of a sudden, here walks Troy Aikman. Multiple time Super Bowl champion of the Dallas Cowboys, Troy Aikman. He walked in, and I was like, yep, that guy's in charge, and then goes down. Like, that guy's in charge. You can tell. You just know. So, after the game, last night, with regard to the Blazers, Chauncey Billups said, we don't have any alpha-type dudes on our team. Let me give you the entire quote so that it is within context. By the way, this is from Sean Highkin's X feed. Is that what we're calling it? An X feed. So I want to give Sean credit. Chauncey Billups last night said, on the offensive side, you want to start games and get the ball moving. We don't have an alpha-type dude on our team. It just is what it is. We've got some hell of a players, guys that are going to be all-stars in this league, but right now we don't have that dude that you can throw it to and he'll get us going for the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game. We just don't have that. So we've got to do it collectively. And all this, when you hear it in context, right? Because if you clip it and you go, and it says, we don't have any alpha-type dude, we don't have an alpha-type dude on our team. Clip that, it's like, what is he talking? And went for 41. No. Read the full quote, because it's talking about beginning of the game. And it was the beginning of the game against Phoenix, and it was the beginning of the game against Golden State, right? It seems to be a whole thing, which is, fourth quarter time, momentum's coming. Got some guys that can put the ball in the bucket. Tip off at home. Who's going to be the alpha that is like, yep, not tonight, boys. Hey, Wizards, not your night tonight. And we're going to put it on you real fast. And this is what and that's why he said at the end, he said, so we've got to do it collectively. Because I think Chauncey Billups knows what I know, what I was just talking about, which is if you are an alpha, you either are or you aren't. It's a wiring thing, I believe. Now, I don't know enough about human psychology, but I've been in enough locker rooms and I've been around enough players to where you just kind of know certain dudes are in charge, and it is anointed by the universe. They just are. Anthony Simons is a tremendous player. Anthony Simons is probably the best player on this Blazer team right now. Is he an alpha? Is it when he walks on the court known, not through verbal means, but just through, body language, like, yep, that's the dude? I don't think so. And I love Anthony Simons. I just said he was the best player on this team. And I think there's going to be some hard decisions down the road with the number 3 draft pick and a guy who kind of seemed to play the same position. There's going to be some hard decisions coming down the pike, which we're going to get into in just a moment. But I asked Pounce this on Tuesday. I brought it up a handful of times. Whose team is this? That's really the question, right? Because when you start talking about Chauncey Billups saying, we don't have an alpha type dude, what he's saying is nobody's taken charge of this team on the court. And part of that is it's in a transition phase. Damian Lillard was in charge for, 12 years? 2 of those, LaMarcus. Got it. 10 of those, it was Dame's team. It was not a question. It didn't matter who they brought in. Didn't matter what coach. That's Damian Lillard's team, and this is the first time ever that the Blazers haven't had that in about a decade. So whose team is it? If only we could talk about it. Well, we're going to do that right now because, Brendan, I brought this up the other day, and I want to expand on it because I'm curious your thoughts. And maybe I'm making mountains out of a molehill here, which I've been known to do. But if ultimately you want to build this team up to being a championship-level team, I do believe there are certain blueprints. You can't build every team the same way, right? There's more than one way to skin a cat, but that's just mean-spirited around the holidays. Apologies to all the cats out there. But there's more than one way to make some eggnog. Hey, because I just got a new recipe. Very excited about. There's more than one way, right, to make an eggnog. But ultimately, the ingredients have got to have some basic building blocks. And I believe in the NBA, at some point, you got to start building around one dude. Even the super teams, right? Name me the super teams. Warriors, that was built around Steph. The Heat with LeBron James. Yeah, that was built around LeBron James. Remember the first year where they didn't win the championship and LeBron was deferring to Dwayne Wade too much, and then guess what happened? LeBron James said, yep, all right, we did that. Now it's my team. Won 2 championships. Giannis. The only team I can think of right now, the Raptors. I was Kawhi Leonard. Now, he was a hired gun, but it was clear they built that team around that one particular hired gun. That's why it lasted 1 year. That banner will fly forever. But when was the last time a team that was championship caliber was a collective? Was there was a question as to whose team it was. Doesn't exist. Miami Heat, that's Jimmy Butler's team. There's some good players on the Miami Heat, that run they made to the finals, but guess what? That's Jimmy Butler's team. He's in charge. So I was just looking at the standings. Eastern Conference leaders right now, 21-6, the Boston Celtics. That's Jason Tatum's team. They built that team around Jason Tatum. And Jaylen Brown fought against it for a while, and then guess what? Jason Tatum's the alpha. He's in charge now. Jaylen Brown got paid, and Jaylen Brown's got a role, but guess what? Is there any doubt who's going to get the ball in crunch time in the Boston Celtics? I don't think there's an argument between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Certainly not anymore. Bucks, Dame's on that team. Guess what? He's not it. Giannis is it. That team's built around Giannis. Sixers, Embiid. Magic, that's Paolo's team. They got some good players. How about, by the way, the Orlando Magic being 16-11 right now? 1 year after having the number 1 overall pick. But the Orlando Magic, that's Paolo's team. New York Knicks, I think that's their fatal flaw. Is Jalen Brunson the guy to build around? But I think that's the Knicks' fatal flaw. Miami Heat, as I mentioned, that's Jimmy Butler's team. Timberwolves, remember the awkward couple of years with the Timberwolves? Now, who knows if they ultimately put it all together. But at some point, guess what? Guess who took over for the Minnesota Timberwolves? Anthony Edwards. Not Karl Anthony Towns. Not Rudy Gobert, who they gave up like a gajillion picks for. Anthony Edwards like, this is my team, guys. Yeah, my owner, don't know. Alex Rodriguez, not even quite sure who that dude is. But this is my team. And that took a little bit, because that's what I'm talking about with the Blazers. It's not always known. Sometimes it takes a little bit. But it's pretty clear that the Minnesota Timberwolves are built around Anthony Edwards. That's his team now. Oklahoma City Thunder, Chet's going to be Rookie of the Year. We're not even into the New Year's, and I think Chet's definitely going to he's going to win Rookie of the Year, right? Unless he gets hurt. Because I think he's still eligible. Chet's playing incredibly well. Guess what? That's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's team. Denver Nuggets, yeah, Jokic. Kings, don't know. Who would you say is this Domantas Sabonis on the Kings, or is it Fox?
I think it's Fox. I don't think Sabonis'
and I think that's
personality.
And I think that's a problem with the Kings, right? Because I don't know if De'Aaron Fox is an alpha. I don't know.
And that could be part of their problem.
That's what I think. The Knicks and the Kings, like those teams.
The Knicks, I go with Brunson.
I agree with you, but like, can you build a team? I love Jalen Brunson.
He's tough as nails. So
he's a dog.
I do throw the challenge flag, saying he's not an alpha, slightly, just because
respectfully accepted the challenge flag.
Only because I don't know. He seems to have a bit of a killer instinct. I'm not saying that Anthony Simons doesn't, but going back to what I said to you earlier in the week, Justin, is this? You kind of looked at me when I was like, we know what Anthony Simons is.
Mm-hmm. He's a tremendous player, but can you build a team around him?
Right. So, we don't know if Scoot can be an alpha, right? Can Anthony Simons develop that this late in his career is kind of what I was getting at earlier in the week.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
So, let's continue to run through these, right? Clippers. That's Kawhi's team. And it is. It's Kawhi's team. Paul George, he's a good player. Maybe a Hall of Famer, but that's Kawhi's team. Mavericks, Luka, we know they've run more than one or two dudes out of town because, even with Kyrie Irving on the Dallas Mavericks, that's Luka's team. Sorry, it's his team. And by the way, Brendan, I don't know if do you remember that 3-pointer that Luka hit his rookie year against the Blazers, in front of the bench, falling away? And I remember who is that guy?
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was yep, because he's alpha. He doesn't scowl. He kind of smirks, and it's kind of irritating probably. But Luka, is there any doubt who's getting the ball? No. Mavericks, that's Luka. Pelicans, it's Zion. And if Zion ever decides to take his health and his fitness and seriously, that team's built around Zion. That's why the Pelicans are so frustrated with his health and fitness, because they're like, dude, we built this team around you. Phoenix, that's Kevin Durant's team. Devin Booker's great. Bradley Beal's good. I'm sorry. When you watched, even in the loss, right, when you watched the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker against the Blazers, who got the ball? That's Kevin Durant's team. And the Lakers, of course, because LeBron James is pretty much the general manager. The Lakers are LeBron's team.
Wait, that's not Anthony Davis's team?
No.
My bad.
Nope. No team with LeBron James on it will be another guy's team. It won't be. That's just who he is. And you know what? You got to respect it. So that's my whole point here is we can build a team and you can act like we love quoting Moneyball, right? Can you recreate them in the aggregate and all that stuff? It's like, at some point, you want to get to a championship level. Somebody's got to move up the ladder and just be like, yep, that's our guy. That's who we're building the team around. That's the alpha. Do you have one on this roster? Can it be Scoot? It's going to take time because he's 19. Shaden is an incredible talent. Doesn't strike me as an alpha. It's not a criticism. That is an observation. There are plenty of dudes who have played, multiple years and as multiple-time All-Stars and won multiple championships in this league who I wouldn't be like, yeah, that guy's an alpha. No, he's an incredible talent. But I think it's at some point, the Blazers have to become somebody's team. And I'm not even saying this year. I'm saying over the next 2 to 3 years. Over the next 2 to 3 years, Joe Cronin, front office, Chauncey Billups, all the collaborators, right, are going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to make a decision one way or the other that, yeah, this is so-and-so's team. Can it be Anthony Simons? I don't know. He looked pretty good last night. Is it Scoot? Just got to give it time. Hopefully he got number 3 pick, and hopefully that guy is on the way. But right now, the Blazers, they don't have it. They just don't have it. All right, coming up, we have got, we're going to switch some gears. We're going to talk some college football. Potential news in the Pac-12 settlement that came out yesterday. Also, there is an interesting story with regard to the transfer portal and the University of Oklahoma and their fan base that is as nutty as I have heard. So we're going to talk about that as well. So that's going to be coming up in a bit. But before we get to that, I need to tell you about my good friends at DeBella. They are the official home improvement sponsor of the Portland Timbers, and DeBella can help you save up to 30% on your energy bills, right? With your roofing, your windows, your siding. Winter weather around here can be brutal. You guys know it. I know it. It might even be a little bit colder this year than it was last year. Well, give DeBella a call or go to debella.us right now and get a no-obligation appointment and check out all that they have to offer, whether it is roofing, windows, siding, even bathroom renovations, and they've got an incredible financing offer. Right now, DeBella is offering 0 down and no payments until 2025, and that's on approved credit, but you heard me correct. 0 down and no payments until 2025, but you got to act right now. So go to debella.us and have them help you with all of your home improvement projects. That is debella.us, the official home improvement provider of the Portland Timbers. All right, time to wrap up hour number one. Talked a lot of hoops in this first hour, but it is that time where we are going to shift gears, talk a little college football. Because believe it or not, we're a week away from the old Sun Bowl down in El Paso. So we're a week away from the Sun Bowl.
Could have fooled me.
Man, bowl games just what? Like, I know there was a game last night I was kind of paying attention to. Then I was like, oh, nope, NFL's on. Blazers are on. Man, just that's going to be a great 30 for 30 one day, which is like in 10 years. Like, hey, remember bowl games? The rise and fall of the bowl games. Like, that's going to be because, let's be honest, in like 5 years, we're not doing this anymore, are we? I mean, there will be like names like the Sun Bowl like may exist in the future, but it's going to be part of some like NIT version of another playoff, right? They're going to go to a playoff. Everybody's going to love it. There's going to be so much money being printed hand over fist. So they're going to be like, why are we doing these one-off games? What if we just took the winner of the Gasparilla Bowl and the winner of the Meineke Car Care Bowl and the winner of the – and how about they keep playing? And every week it'd be like, yeah, we got another 7 opt-outs. We're going to have a manager playing defensive back because nobody wants to – but what if you put like a performance like a playoff incentive, right? Hey, you play in the bowl game, $2,000. I don't know if that's worth it. I just came up with that number off the top of my head, but there's going to be like a performance incentive, right? And again, I don't know it, and I don't have any sources, and I am not speaking from any point of facts. This is just my opinion, man. I think Bo Nix got a little kick down to play in this Fiesta Bowl.
That was a nice Big Lebowski reference.
Thank you very much. I think Bo Nix got a little, hey, you want an extra $100,000? How about you play the Fiesta Bowl? What do you think? Because I saw Bo Nix on the X app going like, hey, Duck fans, buy your Fiesta Bowl tickets now and watch me play and my teammates play one last game. And I love Bo Nix for that. I love that Bo Nix wants to wear the Oregon uniform one last time, and I wish it was just 100% solely out of the goodness of his heart. I think he might be being a little bit incentivized to be playing in that bowl game to up ticket sales. But regardless, there's other things going on in the college football world. So it's time for us to discuss and debate on campus. Here we go. All right, real quick news and notes, and then I have a funny story. It's not really funny, but it's enlightening. So there was a settlement in the Pac-12 right after the State Supreme Court of Washington decided they were not going to review the case. It will not be heard for discretionary review. I learned all this because I have a very smart lawyer wife. But it didn't exactly give it a ruling, so there could be another appeals process, which would be a longer, more strenuous, more costly road that all these teams could go down if they want to continue to fight each other in court over the next 2 to 3 years. Finally, they said, hey, let's put down our swords. Oregon State and Washington State were like, hey, look, if we want to, we can spend all this money. You guys want to cut a deal? Let's cut a deal. So from what it sounds like, Oregon State and Washington State are going to give the member schools their portion of revenue from the Pac-12 conference with a bit of a penalty payment for leaving the conference. And then in the future, all future revenue is going to go to Oregon State or Washington. Still a big win, I believe, for both those schools. More on that coming up in a bit. But, Brendan, we got to talk about how crazy Oklahoma is. Now, we've seen the nuttiness of college football in our world. Especially around recruiting. What is it about recruiting that just causes grown adults to lose their ever-loving minds? So Oklahoma has a player, and not just recruiting, I shouldn't just say that, but also transfer portal. Oklahoma has a very good offensive lineman. He was a freshman. His name is Caden Green. And Caden Green decided, yeah, Gabriel's out. I'm a starting caliber offensive lineman. Let me see what the market is. And he transferred. He left. He decided to go to Missouri. He's a Missouri native, wanted to go back home. Missouri probably offered him up some cash. Well, guess what? The next day after he announced he was leaving the Sooners for the Tigers, his father received a slew of one-star negative Google reviews at his business by Oklahoma Sooners fans, upset that his kid left Oklahoma to play for Missouri. Sooner fans have lost their mind. They've lost their mind. Now, we've seen some nutty things. Grown adults tweeting at kids, telling them where they should go to school. For the life of me, I'll never understand why it would ever get to that far, but you did. But how about being so in the woods for your team that you're going to go and take time out of your day to be like, first off, research it and be like, all right, his dad owns a business. He's a State Farm insurance agent. His dad just sitting there in Missouri trying to sell some insurance. Kid's in college. He wants to come home. It's like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, his State Farm agency on the review site, on Google Reviews, one star, terrible service. But in Oklahoma, I've always said there's a percentage of every fan base that is insane. Every fan base has got a percentage that is just, they've lost their minds. Some have more than others. Boy, Oklahoma, they got the championship belt today. Can you believe that? One-star reviews?
That's nuts. Yeah.
Poor guy's just trying to sell
college football
insurance.
Fans are crazy sometimes, man. We always say, like, that would never happen here. It's always the South.
Is Oklahoma the South?
Yeah.
I mean, it's southern from us.
The South, yeah.
But would you consider, like, I could see, not a bunch, but I could see if, like, say some Seattle kid came to Oregon and was like, yeah, I'm leaving, I'm going to Washington. I could see Oregon fans doing this. Don't do it. It's insane. But, like, maybe not to this degree.
Guess I was wrong, Justin. The Deep South is not referred to as Oklahoma. So
Yeah, because there's Southwest.
Yeah.
I guess it's still, South is in the name. It's in the Southwest.
yeah, so I
But
mean,
they got to draw.
like, this is what I'd expect if, like, Jalen Milrose, like, I'm going to Auburn. Alabama fans would do this to Jalen Milrose's father.
Yeah.
So, like,
This is Oklahoma to Missouri. And he's from
Probably a
Missouri.
little bit
He's
of-
just going back, and he's a lineman. Like, it's
Probably
not
a
like
li-
a quarterback.
probably a little bit of the superiority complex, Justin, where it's like, really? You're going to leave Oklahoma for Missouri? And I know Missouri was better this year, Justin.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I think it's that. Been like, you're going to leave Sooner Nation to go play with the Missouri Tigers? You mean the SEC? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
think there's a superiority complex
So,
for Oklahoma fans.
Reginald Green, State Farm insurance agent, on I think this was on Yelp as well, had to basically put a disclaimer under every one-star review saying, please stop it. You live in Oklahoma. You've never done business with my office. This is a really bad look for Oklahoma fan base. Be better. He basically put that on. Sooner fans.
I agree with him wholeheartedly.
Yeah, Sooner fans. Then take a deep breath. Have an eggnog. It's the holidays.
Have
All
an
right.
eggnog.
We have got Make or Miss coming up. It's Hot Take Friday. Whole hour number 2 next. 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Friday morning. Justin Myers with you. Portland Trail Blazers drop another nail-biter last night at Moda Center, falling to the Wizards 118-117. Anthony Simons led all scorers with 41, but Portland couldn't get the final go-ahead bucket. In the last possession to fall, a left-handed runner from Jeremy Grant sails wide, and the Blazers drop another one. That is 8 of their last 9. The Rams win on Thursday Night Football. They get a 30-22 victory over the New Orleans Saints. They now improved their wild card odds. And Oregon State and Washington State have settled with the other 10 member schools of the Pac-12 regarding a payout. An undisclosed amount of revenue will be forfeited. Coming up in hour number 3, we'll talk to Frank Schwab on the NFL with a huge slate of games coming up this weekend. But hour number 2 of RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, 20 minutes from now, we have got a make or miss. 40 minutes from now, we will continue with our holiday hot takes because it is a hot take Friday, final hot take Friday before the big Christmas holiday. You know, obviously, Christmas, December 25th. Each and every year, it's on a different day. How are we feeling about Christmas on a Monday? For my Christmas-obsessed wife, I don't know if it could get any better. Brendan, I've got Christmas activities tonight. It's the 22nd, but it's Friday. So I got Christmas activities tonight. I got Christmas activities tomorrow. Clearly, Christmas Eve coming up on Sunday night. Going to be a whirlwind Monday. Going to see a bunch of people. And finally, by Tuesday, a little Boxing Day breather. But, yeah, got a whirlwind of Christmas activity. Plus, got a full slate of NFL games coming up this weekend. Rams get a big win this weekend. What's going to happen with the Rams? I mean, I know we're not a big Rams show. I don't know. Brendan, have we talked about the Rams more than 3 minutes all season long?
Well, I mean,
are they like the forgotten team in the NFL?
Once or twice this fall season, I've mentioned that Cooper Kupp is from Yakima, Washington.
We have done that.
I do that all the time. So here's another one. Cooper Kupp, y'all, is from Yakima, Washington. Just got to remind you.
Shout out to Yakima.
Palm
Springs of Washington.
So is that more, and I think it is, but is that more impressive than Kellen Moore coming from Prosser?
I think so.
I mean, obviously the NFL career, I'm not trying to parcel, but is that more impressive than coming? Because Prosser's really tiny, right?
Prosser's pretty small. Yakima is pretty small. I mean, clearly, I'm a little bit biased in terms of the small town football player, but already talked about him once today. I got to put a moratorium on it. Can't live in the past, man. Got to live in the future. But yeah, I can only imagine what and I've never been to the sports bar in Yakima, but
there's 100,000 people in Yakima.
I know what Willie's, which is the bar in Winston, used to be like on a Steeler Sunday, back in the heyday. I remember what that was like terrible towels all throughout Southern Oregon. I could only imagine the amount of just how much Rams gear you think people in Yakima are just rocking on a daily basis. And I love it. It's the best.
Might even be able to include Eastern Washington, Cheney, where Cooper Kupp went to college, too, because, again, don't mean it as a criticism, Justin. How many dudes from Eastern Washington are the best, maybe one of the best players at their respective positions? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think the whole state of Washington, the Seahawks aren't allowing much market share to go away, Justin, but might be a little gold and blue working in Yakima and Cheney.
I'm very interested. Not enough to drive there and find out, but just enough to talk about on this particular thing because I go to sports bars a lot. All right, and I'll tell you what can make or break a sports bar. A lot of people think it's the TVs. It's not. I mean, you got to have them there. A lot of people think it's the sound. A lot of people think it's the wings and the mozzarella sticks. It's not. What will make or break a sports bar is whether or not you have, whether it's a manager or whether it's the bartender or whoever, are they in tune with what's going on in the sports world? Because we've all been there, where you go to a quote-unquote sports bar, and it's like they just have ESPN on. And it's like, yeah, but there's a very important game to the local fan base that's on, I don't know, Fox Sports 1 or something. Like, a sports bar is made or broken by the attention to the remote control or the iPad or whatever you use to change the channel. The attention to the channels will make or break any sports bar. I can tell you, in Portland, I can tell you any sports bar worth its salt, and I'll tell you why. You walk in, and the Blazers are playing, and they're on Root Sports Plus, which, let's say there's a Kraken game, and does a sports bar have it on? Because if they don't, it's like, and again, I could not be a bartender. Couldn't do it. I appreciate and I respect and I treat well everybody that will take the time to make and serve me a delicious beverage. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do the job. And I can understand how you get busy and maybe you're understaffed and you're like, Justin, I can't deal with the remote right now. I'm busy dealing with that table of frat bros over there who won't stop ordering Jaeger bombs, right? And I might be cutting one of them off, and then they're going to yell at me. So, yeah, I can't deal with the remote right now. But I will tell you, any sports bar that is worth its salt, the attention to detail with regard to the remote control and the channels that are on TV, that's the difference. That's the difference between elite and just good. You can throw on ESPN and just call it a day, and people, and we'll still watch it. But the attention to detail, that's where it is. So, with that being said, in the state of Washington, from the Puget Sound all the way to the Snake River, right? Before you get to Idaho, it's Seahawks. At Seahawks, especially after the 2013 season, right? 2013 season, Pete Carroll, Seahawks, they go to the Super Bowl. The entire state, that's Seahawk country. Here, there's pockets, and there's still a good Seahawk fan base, but there's a pocket. I've always said, if you are from Portland or from the state of Oregon, tell me your favorite team. I'll tell you how old you are. Because if you're a Cowboys fan, you were probably 12 in the 90s. You're a 49ers fan, you were probably 12 in the 80s. If you're a Packers fan, that was Brett Favre. Broncos, that was probably John Elway. And now there's a group of kids who are, 9, 10, 11, 12 when the Seahawks are on their run and won the Super Bowl and went back-to-back. And there's going to be a whole slew of Seahawk fans. But in the state of Washington, from the Snake River to the Pacific Ocean, Seahawk country. Now, then there's that little pocket, where you got to imagine there's been I'm sure some fine athletes to come out of Yakima. I'm sure Washington State has probably had their fair share of dudes who had the glory of the field there at Martin Stadium for the Cougs. But you know what? No one like Cooper Kupp. So I'm wondering, on a random Sunday, who gets the big TV? Is it the Seahawks? Let's just say there's conflicting games. Is it the Seahawks or did the Rams get it? I'm fascinated.
I'll say this, Justin, and
is that a battle with like the poor bartender at the local Shooters or wherever in Yakima?
Granted, the Rams were not particularly good. So story time with nephew Brendan over here, Justin.
Let's all gather around.
What's your saying?
Take a knee, helmet's not a chair.
Yeah, there you go. The summer that I worked up in Omak, which is way northeast Washington, like you're getting up there. You can either go to Wenatchee and then drive an hour and a half, or you can go to Spokane and drive 3 hours. So it is a jaunt, Justin.
Yeah.
And that's about as far away from Seattle as you can get.
Omak.
Justin, I walked into that mill, and all throughout, I probably counted 4 or 5 12-man flags. Whether it's in the break room, whether it's in an appropriate and safe part of the mill. But Justin, there was Seahawk garb, and I remember asking. This would have been 2 years, or no, a year after Russ threw the pick six at the goal line.
Oh boy!
And I remember asking my granddad. I was like, man, there's a lot of Seahawks stuff up here. I'm like, we're on the other side. I wouldn't have. And he goes, it's insane here too.
Yeah,
so
it's nuts.
Cooper Kupp's family might be like, hey, that's like the Cooper Kupp bar. This is the Kupp family bar kind of a thing. Because I think the 12s fly no matter what, Justin, but it's real tough.
Because, well, it's funny. In our great state, I was there in Corvallis when Chad, then Johnson, then became Ocho Cinco, and Hausha Mozilla nailed it. But when TJ Husmanzada and Chad Johnson were both playing for the Bengals. And I remember going to a sports bar in Corvallis, and the Bengals were playing the Steelers. Happened to be the game where Carson Palmer got his ACL torn in the playoffs. And I'm in my Steeler gear, and, like, they didn't know I was an Oregon fan, but, like, they were Beaver Bros, because it took over. Right, the Bengals became they had two Oregon State players. I think there might even been a third. Did Nick Barnett play on that team?
The
Bengals. Or no?
No, he was a Packer.
He was a Packer.
Yeah,
I think there was another.
There could be.
I think there was a third guy. Like it was. I mean, the Corvallis to Cincinnati portal was a thing. But, and then of course I was there in Eugene. In Eugene around 2002, right, you couldn't walk into a sports bar without a Detroit Lions game on. I mean, even the reruns, right? Even the reruns is like, yeah, Joey Harrington is our guy. He plays for the Lions. Every bar in Eugene became a Lions bar.
You were right. Quick little Google. Dennis Weathersby was a corner for the Cincinnati Bengals. I didn't even know that. Again, this is Google in the 2003 Cincinnati Bengals roster.
So
wow.
There have been...
this was Palmer... tore his ACL in the playoffs, you said?
Yeah.
So is that a year before or year after? Oh, no. We're going like 04 maybe.
I think it was 04. I'm pretty sure it was 04.
Was it against the Steelers?
It was against the Steelers.
It was 05. 05, if you can believe
it. It was 04 season, and it was January of 04.
Yes, sorry, yes.
Probably shouldn't have been in a college bar at my age then, but I was.
Steelers crushed him, though.
Kimo von Oelhoffman tore his ACL. Didn't want to. Got blocked into him. It's a tough scene.
Wait, say that again?
The defensive lineman, his name was Kimo von Oelhoffman for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He tore Carson Palmer's ACL that game. Yeah. And then it was over from there.
I had to quickly double check, Justin, but I'm 90% sure that he has a daughter who plays for Oregon State women's basketball.
Hey, let's go. Look at that full circle on the show.
Pretty hard to not have that be a recognizable name. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. But anyway,
the Von Oelhoffman
all
name.
that this 2000
Samoan with the German name, right? Pretty recognizable.
So
right?
This is 20 years ago. Last with Brendan. Back to Justin.
But like, there have been 3 teams adopted by the Eugene Willamette Valley greater area. It's the Lions in the early 2000s. The Titans when Marcus got drafted by the Titans, and now the Chargers. So those are the teams, and like I would imagine, other than the Bengals, has there ever been like a team that the entire Oregon State fan base adopted? A little bit, maybe the Texans with the old. Help me out. Your favorite player of all time? Cooks.
Not Brandon Cooks.
But Cooks played for the Texans, right?
He did briefly. Cooks is also the most traded player in NFL history, so he spent...
So there was no team that Oregon State just quite adopted?
No, I would say that the Bengals are a good one, and then the one you're forgetting about is the Rams, because Steven Jackson was the...
St. Louis Rams.
He was the man in charge for about... They were bad, Justin, but there's a reason Steven Jackson is the Rams' all-time leading rusher, and with how running backs are treated now, no one will ever break that record.
So there you go. Full circle, by the way. Bring it right back because you mentioned the Rams, and we started this with the Rams and Cooper Kupp. How about the Rams last night? Way to go. Way to go, boys. Rams are 8-7.
We have some Seahawk fans that are like, shut up, guys. We want the Rams.
We'll talk about the Seahawks a little bit later. We got Frank Schwab coming up in the third hour. We'll talk about the Seahawks. They're 7-7. They got 3 winnable games, but they need a little bit of help. But they got 3 winnable games. Is Drew Lock going to be able to do it? Does Geno Smith come back? A lot of issues. Quarterback-wise, I think the Seahawks, both present and future questions at quarterback for the Seahawks. But I was just thinking about, like, we have not talked other than, And we got distracted again because our Cooper Cup Yakima stories, even though neither one of us have ever spent a lot of time in the great city of Yakima. But like the Rams sit at 8-7. That's the surprise team in the NFL right now, wouldn't you say? Is there another team where you're like Texans? I guess the Texans are 8-6. That's a bit of a surprise.
I mean, we did not expect D'Amico Ryans to win.
Colts being 8-6, kind of a surprise, especially with Anthony Richardson going out.
Minshew mania, man.
But let's tip the cap a little bit to the Rams. All right, coming up, we have got what are we doing? Make or miss? That's right. We got make or miss coming up. Also, as I mentioned, we got Frank Schwab on the big show. Where did that thing go? I had a thing. I need to. Technology, Brendan, is not being my friend right now, and we're gonna hopefully try to vamp until it goes to there. Got it. All right. So before we do all of that, I had it all, and then the computer reset on me. Once again, got to tell you about DeBella. That's right. The official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers, DeBella, with brutal winter weather. You want to save up to 30% on your energy bills? Well, DeBella can help because they can take care of your roofing, your windows, your siding. All of those improvements could be potential money-saving projects. Plus, if your roof is leaking or maybe if it's just aging and you want to get a free quote from the good people at DeBella's, you can do that right now, and they can help, again, windows, siding, bath projects. They are one of the best in the state of Oregon, and that's not me. That's not them. That is 15,000 five-star reviews on Google for their excellent work. 15,000 five-star reviews. So now is the perfect time to connect with DeBella. Amazing financing opportunities, 0 down, no payments until 2025 on approved credit. You heard it right, though. 0 down, no payments until 2025 on approved credit for your roofing, your siding, your windows, or your bath renovation. Visit debella.us right now for a free, no-obligation appointment, and they can make updating your home so easy. DeBella, DABELLA.us, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. My beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, who are dealing with some stuff right now. We're dealing with some stuff right now. Like, they're 7-7. Vibes, bad. Bad vibes around Pittsburgh. They're on their third quarterback of the season. George Pickens is getting called out for not giving an effort. Other players are getting called out for not giving an effort. They're wondering if the Steelers' culture has been lost. Has Mike Tomlin lost a lot? They're 7-7. And then you look, Seattle Seahawks, 7-7. Vibes are kind of high right now, wouldn't you say? Just won on Monday Night Football. Drew Lock had maybe his best moment of his NFL career. Pete Carroll is back in the good graces. The Rams, before yesterday, were 7-7 as well, and then they get the win against New Orleans. It's not exactly New Orleans, not exactly world beaters, but the Rams get the win against New Orleans, and all of a sudden, man, vibes are. Isn't it nuts how you can have teams all sitting there 7-7? Vikings, vibes a little bit low, sitting at 7-7. How are the vibes around the Broncos? Vibe check for the Denver Broncos. It was bad, and then remember they were going to fire sale. Remember they were going to get rid of everybody. And then the Broncos went on a 5-game win streak. Now they've lost 2 of their last 3. They got blown out by the Lions. Sean Payton screaming at Russell Wilson on the sidelines. But they're 7-7 as well. It's just kind of nuts, like this big mush in the middle of the NFL, because there's the Patriots, right? There is the Panthers. There's the Cardinals. They all stink. They've stunk for a while. They know that. They're in just end the season mode, right? And even the Jets, Jets, just end the season. But like, what a weird spot to be in if you are, I don't know, like if you're the Steelers, right? Do you want to, or if you're the Seahawks? If you're the Seahawks, do you want to win the next 3 games? Maybe be the 7th wild card, maybe lose again in the first round? Or would you rather, I don't know, up that draft pick? Not exactly tank, because I don't think there's any tanking going on in the NFL. I know people don't believe me when I say that, but it's not like it is in the NBA. But if you're a Seahawks fan, do you want to win the next 3? Because, I mean, you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Not saying you can win the Super Bowl on a whim, but, you know. The Seahawks, and who would they match up against? Probably the Eagles. You just beat the Eagles. Right? The team you just beat. Probably match up against the Eagles. Maybe match up against the Cowboys. They probably match up against the Cowboys, right? That's 7th wild card.
Yeah, so it depends on who ultimately wins that division, or the Seahawks could be going to the NFC South winner. I need to look at the playoff bracket, exactly how it breaks down, because obviously the Niners will get the bye, and assuming they finish as the 1 seed, and then it would probably be the Eagles or the
the Cowboys are 10-4 right now.
So if they finish, I know it doesn't reflect it in the standings, but I learned if they finish tied, the Eagles do win the division. Even though right now they're tied, and it does give the Cowboys the nod.
Do you like the playoffs the way they do it in the NFL, where the division winners get the
home game no matter what?
The home game no matter what, or do you think it's? I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the this is the year where it gets brought up, right? When a team from the NFC South who may have a losing record,
because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
are they winning right now with the Saints' loss?
Right now are 7-7.
Yep.
They're in 4th place. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be, in terms of the seeding, will be ahead of either the Eagles or the Cowboys.
Right.
Like one of those teams.
Right.
They will be ahead of.
I would say, divisions are kind of silly, right? In my opinion, we did away with divisions at the college level, even at the Pac-12 level. Mm-hmm. I should say not the college level.
Well, Big Ten still does it, which kind of maybe cost Ohio State.
Yeah,
maybe
I'm not the biggest fan of it's kind of like when the Blazers won the Northwest Division, and then they're like, oh, that guarantees you a top 4 seed. Then they changed that rule.
Yeah, because the NBA, I don't know why they even have divisions.
Agreed.
Do they still?
Yes, Blazers are still in the Northwest Division. It technically still exists, but there's no benefit to winning.
Oh, there you go. I got to go 4 different clicks before I get to the division page on ESPN, because nobody cares.
But I'll say this, Justin. The reason why I do like it is because the unthinkable can happen. Did anybody expect the Seattle Seahawks with a losing record hosting the defending Super Bowl champion New Orleans Saints when the Seahawks won that crummy NFC West that year? Pretty much every team was terrible that year. The Seahawks turned it on in the postseason for one game. And, do we have that moment? Does Beastquake happen if they don't host? Absolutely not. So, I don't know.
I mean, though, the Beastquake, like the actual seismic activity doesn't have. I mean, Marshawn could have still ran over all those Saints in the Superdome like he could have.
But no, it was that's why, Justin. I think that's one of the special things it gives us. And every year, there is a team who upsets a team just because they're playing at home. So,
but then you got like last year, right? Remember the Giants? They went into Minnesota and took down the Vikings.
That's true.
And it's like, God, NFL playoffs are nuts.
They're fun. Yeah, they're unpredictable and fun. And yeah, I'm getting excited, man. Like I told you a couple weeks ago when college football ended, Justin. I know we got a couple more battles and races, but I want to get to the NFL playoffs. I'm ready.
Well, because this is what stinks about college football. It's the bittersweet part about college football. Then we're going to get to make or miss. But the bittersweet part is once the regular season is over, like, meh. Like I'm excited to watch college football playoff. And I'm intrigued.
Excited to see Liberty?
No, I'm not. I'm not excited about 10
I mean, you asked me if I was excited for the Sun Bowl, and I'm kind of like,
10 a.m. kickoff. New Year's
Sun Bowl's
Day.
11. So, come on.
Yeah, but it's not New Year's Day. I'm going to be shaking off I don't stay up till midnight, but like 3 times a year. This is going to be one of them.
I mean,
I'm going to shake off my champagne hangover. Like, 10
I totally agree with you. 10 a.m. is terrible time, but is Friday a work day at 11 a.m. any better?
We're the only doofuses that are working on Friday next week, by the way. Everybody else is taking the entire week off.
I'm just asking.
You and I are the only ones in the office. We could go and we could run around this office in our underwear if we wanted to. Nobody else is here. We're the only ones that got suckered into working this week.
We'd get a call. Hey, we saw the cameras, guys. Yeah. You guys are running around in your birthday suits. Okay.
No, not birthday suit. I still can't.
Isn't underwear still have that? No. I thought it was.
Birthday suit is nude.
Okay, I've heard because
that's like when you were born. You're born with no clothes. That's why it's your birthday suit.
The more G-rated version is now like that's how you do those kind of challenges now. Which, to be honest, at least that's not public indecency if you've got underwear on.
Did you ever do the
naked anything?
Jump in the lake naked? Oh, I've done it.
No, I don't. See, that's more of a small town thing right there, man.
I don't know.
I think it kind of is.
It might be.
But, yeah, no, like there was never like freshman orientation, do the naked mile, Friday Night Lights style. But you know that happened somewhere, Justin.
Well, they do the naked bike ride here. I don't.
Well,
have we done the naked bike ride since COVID? I don't know.
Good question. But yeah, that's a little bit different than I'd expect. Like a dare of sorts.
I
got
what I mean? Yeah. All right, real quick before we get to make or miss, because I'm going to talk to Frank Schwab about this coming up in now 50 minutes. Who's going to win right now? Who's the best team in the NFL? Who's the best team?
49ers.
Yeah, I think it is.
I have a hard time. I have a hard time going against them. I like the Cowboys this year.
When was the last time we've seen a team that is as good as the 49ers who are like, if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's a bust? Like, it's been a minute. Even the Chiefs, as good as the Chiefs were, is like, well, the Bills are good. The Ravens are good. Like, the 49ers, they don't win the Super Bowl this year. Like, it's a disappointment.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we've seen that in a long time. Maybe this is a Patriot team?
Yeah.
Maybe the 16-0 Patriots?
So, like, in recent memory.
07?
The Ravens team where Lamar won the MVP. And they
2019
and they
Ravens,
got bounced in round 1. Like, that was a Raven team that I think lost 3 or 4 games.
Isn't that nuts? Lamar Jackson, as good as he is, and I think he's a weapon, and I really wanted him out of the division.
Yeah, I bet you did.
1 playoff win.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Well, Justin Herbert.
1 playoff win.
Justin Herbert, right?
Well, he's 0 playoff wins. But, but Justin Herbert's never had an MVP season. They've never won the division, I don't think.
I think they might have won it last year.
No, I don't think so. They're in the same division as the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's right.
Never won the division. Yeah. This is like Lamar Jackson is like.
It's true. It's a good point.
He had some runs. It was like 1 playoff win.
Yeah, it's true.
Nuts. All right, let's get to make or miss.
even mentioned it. Maybe we did in the first hour, but very briefly, I have a major problem with that ball going to Jeremy Grant to close out the game. I love Jeremy Grant. He's the leading scorer on this team. But what did he have last night, Justin? Let's see.
He didn't have 41, I'll tell you that.
And with 7 seconds, which is what they had on the clock last night when they got the ball, and great play by Thibault to knock that ball.
He had 20 last night.
Yeah, so I guess, I understand that he played well. I just have a problem with that ball not being in Anthony Simons' hands. This is not Dame yet, where it's like, hey, the ball's going to go in his hands. It has to go somewhere else because he's going to be doubled.
But that was kind of my point in the first hour was, is there anybody in that huddle demanding the ball? And do you need that? But I go back to what I think Chauncey Billups was saying. Again, let's full context for fairness. I don't think he's talking about the end of games. He's talking about the beginning of games. And because the end of games ain't got a bucket. And, and to DeAndre Ayton's credit, yeah, he missed a couple of lay-ins, but you know what? He grabbed some Save some of our spiciest takes, some of our hottest takes about important subjects. No. About silly subjects, you're gall darn right. By the way, origins of Hot Take Friday. How on earth did it start? It started as an idea on the bridge, and it started with me and my good friend, host of Rip City Drive, Chad Doing, and each and every holiday on the bridge, we would do our hot takes. We did Christmas hot takes. We did New Year's Eve hot takes. We did St. Patrick's Day hot takes. We did Valentine's Day hot takes. So anytime there's a holiday around, it gets me very excited for some of the spiciest takes. And while a lot of people may look down their nose and they may think they are above throwing out a hot take every once in a while, we are not. We're not above it at all. Matter of fact, we embrace it. We lean into it. So just a couple of days before the big Christmas holiday, it is time for the Christmas holiday version of Hot Take Friday. Here we go.
The week is
and Carol, I shall open my present on Christmas Day. And yeah, the divorce.
And you and I talked
to the
about
children
it.
of divorce, I apologize. All right, my bad. I didn't. My bad. But should have been maybe a little bit more thoughtful on that. You got me on that one. But other than that,
It's true.
we should be open them on Christmas Day.
So,
I guess
okay.
it's Christmas Day, right? We can't like Christmas Eve. I've told you this story. I've told this story this week. But like, I had a friend, and like they had a Christmas Eve, and they all just started opening up all their presents. And I'm like, what is going on? And they do all the presents on Christmas Eve, and then they would do stockings and Santa gift on Christmas Day, and that was it. I'm like, what is this anarchy? You're just opening up all your gifts?
I guarantee
What
this.
are you doing?
I guarantee this is just.
It's like the people in the land race in Oklahoma who like with the actual Sooners who went there too early. Like, you just open up all your stuff on Christmas Eve?
You mean a severely underrated movie with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman?
Wow, I mean, it's pretty highly rated. I mean, far and away, it's legit.
You're saying they were the original Oklahoma Sooners with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman?
No, they followed the rules. It was the parents who went there early, which is, by the way, why we call them Oklahoma Sooners. It's because of that land race, and they're too early.
But no, like I think
can't do that.
Yeah, I think your theory holds up. The only reason that we see it differently is how we were raised. as much as I can remember, Christmas Eve was at Grandma's house. We always opened up presents on that side of the family. Then it was presents from the other side of the family the next day.
Boy.
The fact that
I don't
you
want to say
told
anything
me,
to get Grandma Slaughter mad at me. She was very nice. She shared with me her eggnog
did.
recipe and tip of the cap to Grandma Slaughter. Hope to hang out one day, have some eggnog and some fettuccine Alfredo. I'm very excited about that one day, but I still can't get on board with the Christmas Eve presents. I can't do it. Can't get on board with it. Do you got a holiday? You got a Christmas hot take? What do you got?
Christmas hot take. I'm trying to see. I've had a couple kind of rumbling around the brain that I wanted to go with. I've kind of already hit my big ones. This.
Where are you on the getting socks for Christmas? My mom might be listening.
I'm not a big fan of getting clothes in general.
My mom might be listening right now. Every year, like that was we would get socks, and let me tell you what was the worst. And if you got them early, right? You wake up and it's like, hey, here. You get your Santa gift, right, which was always epic, and you get your stocking, and then you start opening up presents. If you get the socks early, that's great. Is there anything worse when you were a kid than like that one present that's like in the back and like you forgot about it? It got kind of lost in the shuffle, and you're like, you thought you were done, and you're like, there's one more back there, and it's for me, and it's like, yeah, that sucks.
Did Dad ever bring anything out of the garage for you? Like, Dad did that to us once, where my sister and I are like,
I think my brother got a bike one year.
We're like,
there's a big wheel involved. You know what big wheels are?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
do.
I think there was a big wheel.
Sure do.
One year.
Yeah, there was one year, Justin.
Out of the garage.
My sister and I, all we asked for, and
Dude,
this
big
is
wheels were the
timely reference. We said, in lieu of all of our gifts we'd get, we just want the Wii, Mom and Dad. We just want the Wii. Open gifts, we're like, no Wii. All of a sudden, Dad comes around the corner. Oh, look at the late surprise.
Late surprise.
My hot take, you cannot properly enjoy Christmas without watching Christmas with the Cranks.
That is a hot take. I don't know if I've ever seen Christmas with the Cranks.
You haven't seen it, man?
No.
Tim Allen, Jamie Lee Curtis?
Can't say I've ever seen it.
Oh, it's a quality film. It's about skipping Christmas.
She'll be watching Home Alone. She'll be watching Christmas Vacation. She'll be watching Elf. Got 3 nights of Christmas at the Myers household.
There you go.
Got a lot on the plate.
Do me a favor. Ask the missus if she's seen Christmas with the Cranks,
right,
being
well-
the Christmas movie, facade that she is.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Will do. Coming up, we got hour number 3. We're going to talk to Frank Schwab. We'll talk some NFL. We'll get back into this Blazer talk. Maybe some more Christmas talk, as well as we got one final hour before we head out on the holiday weekend. But we're back just on the other side here on 620 Rip City Radio.
From the Goldberg-Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg-Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Friday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Portland Trail Blazers drop another nail-biter last night. Had the final possession against the Washington Wizards, but Jeremy Grant running lay-in fell just wide, and the Blazers go down 118-117. They were led by Anthony Simons, who not only happened to lead the Blazers, but led all scorers, had 41 points. Next up, the Blazers head on the road. They'll be taking on the Golden State Warriors tomorrow down at the Chase Center. Thursday night football in the NFL, the Rams get a big win over the Saints, 30-22. They improved their wild card odds as they improved to 8-7 on the season. And in college football news, Oregon State and Washington State have settled with the 10 remaining Pac-12 schools for an undisclosed amount of revenue that will be forfeited. Frank Schwab's going to join us in 20 minutes to talk some NFL. RCM mailbag coming up, but there is some big college football news that just dropped a couple of minutes ago that could potentially have a ripple effect on the Pac-2. Hour 3 of RCM starts right now, 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
I didn't expect to be talking about this today, but it could be another game changer, another earth-shattering move in the world of college football that could ultimately affect both Oregon State and Washington State. I don't know if you've been paying attention. Obviously been a little distracted by the holidays, been a little distracted by National Signing Day in the college football world. But Florida State, they are ticked off. And I understand it. Not only are they ticked off about being excluded from the college football playoff, which first to blame is the committee, second to blame is the ACC. Now we know that college football is a revenue sport. The more money you have, the more you can compete, especially if you've been paying attention with the National Signing Day that happened just a couple of days ago, right? A lot of players going from one school to another, a lot of accusations about, well, they bought this guy. I love the fans like, oh, they just bought him. It's like, yeah, you can. It's welcome to the NIL world. You all wanted it. Oh, you didn't want it on this day. When they get to your school, then you want to pay them. USC fans like, oh, Oregon just went and bought him. It's like, yeah, they did. That's the rules now. Fentress said it yesterday. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Heck, USC just bought Oregon State's best linebacker and the leading Pac-12 tackler. So that's not buying it?
I know.
Come on, guys.
Everybody's buying everybody.
Come on
right?
now. Call a spade is what I like to say, Justin. It's not that it's wrong, but it's kind of like what you were saying earlier in the week. Like, I don't say it as a negative. It's like, does Dylan Gabriel come to Oregon without probably getting a bag? Probably not. I mean,
nobody does
it's just
anymore.
the way it is, and it's not negative. It's just, I think you just have to call attention to it. It's like those schools can do it, these ones can't.
That's the rules. Here's the deal. Look, when I was growing up, I had a friend. I'm going to say his name because he doesn't live here, and it's ultimately going to be a compliment. But his name was Ryan Morrison, and Ryan Morrison was gorgeous. All right? He was a handsome SOB. Ryan Morrison was a bit of a ladies' man back in the day, and you just knew that if you were hanging out with Morrison and you were going to go out and maybe try to spit some game, you knew you were playing for second place. You just, because like that, sorry. You just knew it. Because it's, again, don't hate there are no rules when it comes to going out and trying to attract the opposite sex. There is no rules. There's the laws of the jungle. Kill or be killed. And some people are just, they have more than you. And in this college football world, sometimes just, you're not going to be able to compete to get certain recruits because you just don't have the cash. And that's the reality we live in. And where does that cash come from? Well, a lot of it comes from boosters, right? A lot of the cash comes from boosters. But as we have learned, a big chunk of money is coming from these TV executives or from these television contracts and these grant of rights deals. So Chip Kelly I don't know if he let the cat out of the bag. I don't know if he's supposed to be talking about it, but UCLA getting $75 million from the Big Ten. UCLA getting $75 million. Oregon and Washington, I believe for the first 3 years are getting a split share. So they're getting about $36 million. Now, both Oregon and Washington, they got financial backers. So they're going to be all right getting a half share. It's also more. All the departing schools from the Pac-12 that are going to the Big Ten, they're getting $31.5 million a year. That's the number. ACC teams. You know the ACC is getting per year in their grant of rights deal that was signed, I think 6 years ago? 12. They're getting $12 million a year in the ACC. Because they signed a 20-year deal not knowing that cord cutting, streaming, other factors, the fact that live, like, what? Why do you put stuff on TV? How do you make money? Well, you put stuff on TV, and then advertisers advertise, and then that's how you make your money. Well, we live in a cord-cutting world. We live in a streaming world. We live in a bare minimum, a DVR world. You know what you can't do with live sports, Brendan? Can't fast forward through the commercials because it's live. I watched Amazon Prime last night. I watched all the commercials, every single one of them. Sports is a money-making venture because you can't fast forward through them. I don't watch commercials with any other show. When was the last time you watched a show and actually watched the commercials?
Do we count the fact that I have Max, Hulu, and Netflix with ads?
Nah. I guess you sit through like the YouTube ads too.
Sure, but
for the most, like,
if we don't count those, then when I watch a Blazer game,
live sports, only time you watch commercials.
Yeah,
that Fred Meyer commercial in the Blazer game.
Oh my gosh, is that the sad
touching? Also, can we get that kid with the broken ankle in the Blazer game? Like, can we?
Sad.
Can we help him out a little bit? Anyways, you got to stay focused because we only got a couple of minutes here because we're gonna get to Frank Schwab. But like the ACC, like revenue is down in the ACC compared to the rest of college football, and that revenue being down may be preventing certain ACC schools from buying players. And guess what? The conference is down. Florida State goes undefeated in the ACC. They get kept out of the college football playoff. One, because their quarterback was hurt. Two, because let's be honest, Clemson and Miami and Virginia Tech and all, like, they're not holding up their end of the bargain. And the ACC is a football conference probably in last place this year of the Power Five. It's been the Pac-12, but for the most part, the ACC. So guess what? Florida State's like, all right, well, it's the committee's fault first. Secondly, we can look down this road and see that the teams that we want to compete with, Alabama and Clemson, well, Alabama and Georgia and Michigan and Oregon and USC, and these are the schools we want. $12 million a year ain't gonna cut it. Well, they have just held a board of trustee meeting. This is according to Brett McMurphy. Today, we've reached a crossroad in our relationship with the ACC. This is from trustees chair at Florida State. I believe this board has been left no choice but to challenge the legitimacy of the ACC grant of rights and its severe withdrawal penalties. Right now, currently, if the Florida State wants to leave the ACC, $572 million, it says, to withdraw from the ACC. But turns out in 2010, there was no exit fee. So they're saying, yeah, they just invented that because of when USC, UCLA, Oklahoma, and Texas both started leaving, they just invented it. What does this have to do with Oregon State and Washington State? I'm glad you asked, gang. If Florida State leaves the ACC, they're going to have options. One of those options is likely going to be the SEC. And if Florida State gets out, you know who's going with them? Brendan? Clemson. Clemson's going with them. So if the SEC gets Clemson and Florida State, they are a behemoth. Now, the Big Ten's already got Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, along with Michigan and Ohio State. And then the SEC is going to have Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida State, Clemson. Those are two pretty good entities. How's the Big 12 keep up with the Joneses, shall we say? How does the Big 12, whose best team right now is Utah, right? Utah's their best team right now? How are they going to compete? Well, they're going to raid what is going to be a mass exodus out of the ACC. Pac-12 may not be the only conference that is done. The ACC may be the next in this whole rearrangement. And all of a sudden, North Carolina, Miami, Virginia Tech, they're going to be up for grabs. But also, Oregon State and Washington State, they got a little television network over there. If the Big 12 feels like, and they've got a very aggressive commissioner, Brett Yormark is his name, very aggressive. If the Big 12 believes that they are being left behind by the Big 10 and the SEC with maybe a potential mass exodus out of the ACC, you are going to see more Big 12 expansion. And guess who's sitting there with a couple $100 million and a television network in their backyard? Oh, little old Cougs and Beavs. This Florida State thing could be huge news. Now, the timing of it is interesting because earliest that Florida State could join a new conference is 2025. So it's going to be an awkward 2024. But the earliest they could would be summer of 2025. But if Florida State exits and then Clemson goes with them, and let's say they go to the SEC, the Big 12 is going to start. They need more product. And right now, because the SEC, remember, is ESPN. And if the ACC starts going with a mass exodus, what happens with Cal and Stanford? Remember, Cal and Stanford left for like no money to the ACC next year. If the ACC falls apart, the Big 12 might be like, hey, Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, Washington State, maybe Arizona State, Colorado, Utah. You guys want to make a Pac-8 version of the Big 12? Sound good? And we'll just do that and make that part of our TV package, and ESPN will be like 3 or 4 West Coast late-night games that we currently don't have right now. Let's make a deal. Monty Hall, timely reference. Most of you are probably thinking Wayne Brady, but let's make a deal. Monty Hall, he was the OG. Remember I've been saying all year? This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Florida State's going to leave the ACC. The ACC is going to get picked off part by part. Part of those things are Cal and Stanford, who are just sitting there going like, wow. I mean, I'm willing to bet, not a significant amount of money, but enough, that the Big 12 is going to be like, let's get Washington State, Oregon State, Cal, Stanford, team them up with the 4 corner schools. Boom, that's 8. And we're going to create a West Coast version, a Pacific division, if you will, of the Big 12. And then you're going to create like the Texas Southwest division of the Big 12. And then you take on existing ACC schools. And then the Big 12 goes and pair them up with already West Virginia, who you already have. It's going to Power 5, Power 4, Power 3. Welcome to 2025, everybody. All right. Yeah, but an interesting bit of circumstances that went on in college football today. We're going to talk some NFL, though, with Frank Schwab coming up on the other side. We do have an RCM mailbag. But before we do need to tell you once again about DaBella. DaBella, DaBella, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. And if your home needs improvement, well, DaBella is your one-stop shop. They can help you with roofing, windows, siding. Those 3 things can help you save up to 30% on your energy bills. And, you know, this winter, we all know how brutal the winter weather is going to get. Also, more than just your energy bills, how solid is your roof? It's the first bit of protection against this winter weather. And if your roof is leaking or just aging, you can get a free quote from DaBella right now. They can also help you with bathroom renovations. They are one of the best in the state of Oregon. And that's not me saying it. That is 15,000 5-star reviews on Google for their excellent work. 15,000. Plus, now is the perfect time to connect with DaBella. You might be saying, Justin, it's a tough time financially. You know, Christmas and all, holiday season. Well, guess what? They've got an amazing finance opportunity because right now on approved credit, you can get 0 down and no payments until 2025. You heard me exactly right. 0 down, no payments until 2025 on approved credit for roofing, siding, windows, or bathroom renovation. Visit DaBella.us for a free, no-obligation appointment, and they'll make updating your home so easy. DaBella, they are the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. right, it is December football. Got the Rams with a win last night. Put themselves right there in the heart of the wild card race. A team we haven't been talking about all season long, Los Angeles Rams. They're just kind of hanging around. Seahawks coming off of a victory on Monday Night Football to keep their playoff hopes alive. Some teams already looking on to next year. A lot of NFL stuff to talk about, and we're very excited to welcome back to the Big Show from Yahoo Sports, Frank Schwab back on the Big Show. Good morning, Frank. How we doing?
We're good. How are you guys?
We're doing fantastic. Obviously, we got NFL to talk about. It's going to be a couple of big weeks looking ahead. And I mentioned the Seahawks because I'm fascinated, Frank, with the NFL, how we can kind of just change our opinions on players and coaches on a dime. One win, one play, and all of a sudden, Pete Carroll goes from potentially losing the locker room and maybe is it over and do they need to move on? And then Drew Lock hits Jackson Smith and Jigba on Monday Night Football, and all of a sudden Pete Carroll's got his hat on backwards and the Seahawks are alive. Seahawks sitting at 7-7 right now. Looking at three potentially winnable games. I know in your playoff projection you have them as getting in, but kind of sitting here with the Seahawks with some interesting questions at quarterback. Where do you see them this year? You still think with these three games they're going to be a playoff contender?
I do. Maybe it's just my belief in the Seahawks. I've thought they're a good team, and then they had that kind of bad slump mid-season that really knocked them back to the playoff race. But I still think they have the talent to win these games. You got to win at Tennessee on Sunday. That's the kind of game that you can't let down. You can't. Yeah, you got this huge win, like you said. Everybody's excited, celebrating on Monday. Well, you can't let that lead to a letdown on Sunday against the Titans team. You really should be like that. That's a team that is kind of floundering right now. But if you win that, they could win the last two games. It's not easy in the NFL. Nothing's easy. Just because you're favored means very little, as we've definitely seen this season. So, but I like where they're at. I think they are going to. I do. I think they're going to win out. I trust Pete. I trust this roster. The Rams, win yesterday doesn't help them for sure. That's the Rams are really a good spot to make the playoffs now too. So. It's going to be very, very interesting race down the stretch, and the only thing the Seahawks can control is winning out, and they might need to win out.
One more thing on the Seahawks, because I'm kind of fascinated by their quarterback situation, right? As Drew Lock looked okay, and then it looked bad at times, and then again, like we talk about in the NFL, sometimes it's just one play. Sometimes it's just, DK can just go up into double coverage and make you look like a really good quarterback, and you hit a dime to Smith and Jigba, and then now Geno Smith maybe potentially coming back. What I'm curious is, did Drew Lock, in the way that he kind of had that final drive on Monday Night Football, could there maybe be some questions? What happens if Geno Smith comes back? Maybe looks a little bit rusty, maybe off to a slow start against Tennessee. Do they got maybe a potential kind of quarterback carousel going on there for the rest of the year?
Maybe. Just because it's so late in the year, you can't afford to work through any, rustiness Geno has or anything like that. You need to win games. I don't trust that Drew Lock has suddenly shown up as a good NFL quarterback. I'm based in Colorado, so I probably saw too much of Lock as the Broncos quarterback to really buy into this. And he did before. Look, the drive was great. The drive was awesome, 92 yards in 2 minutes or whatever it was. It was fantastic. It was a huge moment for him. It was really clutch. He made some big plays. But we can't just gloss over the fact that he really struggled before that. He was. That game didn't need to be that close if he was better in the first 58 minutes. So I don't necessarily think he's back, he's arrived, anything like that. But to your point, look, if Geno struggles, you just can't wait. You just can't, let him work through it like it's week 3. If they're down 10-7 on Sunday and it's the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden you're just, Pete's like, we need a spark. Let's make a quarterback change. Could I see that happening? Yeah, I could. Just because, Drew at least showed enough the other day to at least give them options at the quarterback position.
Frank Schwab, Yahoo Sports, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I mentioned last night the Rams get another win. It's kind of been fascinating with the Rams this year. It looked as though, all of the receipts for the gamble that they made 2 years ago to win the Super Bowl were going to come due, right? And it's all right, they got to sell off all these players,
right.
and they pushed their chips into the middle. They won the Super Bowl, and now you got to pay the piper. Well, they've won 5 of their last 6. Matthew Stafford is kind of back to playing at an all-pro level, at least the way he looked last night. And they are very much in the mix, like you mentioned, kind of with that tiebreaker over Seattle. How'd they turn it around? Was this health? Like, did they figure some things out? How'd they figure out kind of and make that switch right around the beginning or the middle of the season?
I honestly just think it's coaching. I think this is McVay's best job of his career, and that says something about a guy who's been to 2 Super Bowls and won one of them. I just think he's look, when you look at what they really do have, I mean, Puka Nakuma's been great. Kyron Williams has been great. They have a couple of 5th-round picks. I mean, I know that they just might have hit on some really good late draft picks, but maybe it's the coach putting them in the right positions to win. I mean, look at even Stafford. I thought Stafford might retire at the end of last year just because of the concussions and the injuries, and he's come back, like you said, played at a fantastic level. So all of a sudden he's just putting these guys in the best positions to win, and the defense doesn't all of a sudden have some superstars, but they have Aaron Donald, a bunch of no-names, and they're in the middle of the pack, which is much better than I thought their defense was going to be. I still think his roster is great, but they're getting everything out of every player. To me, that's coaching. The staff is headed by McVay. I think McVay's, has a great coach of the year argument. And they're the type of team now that could they go into Philly and beat them? Could they go, if it comes out, could they go into Detroit and give them a game? Yeah. I think that this is a kind of wild card team they don't necessarily want to play. They're hot. They're confident. They have playmakers. They have a great coach, and I really, really respect what they've done. Because I'll be honest, I thought this was going to be a 3 or 4 win team. I think a lot of people thought that. They had to tear it down. They had, like you said, pay the bills for that Super Bowl run, which no regrets. I mean, whatever. Like any team, I think would take that. The Jets. You tell the Jets fans, like, oh, hey, you're going to win a Super Bowl, but you're going to have a rebuilding season down the road. Oh yeah, it's not even a question. But they didn't even rebuild. They just kind of, because I think McVay held it together so well and got everything out of the talent they had. And, Nakua is a good talent to follow them in the 5th round. Stuff like that happened. All of a sudden, the Rams are one of the NFL's best stories. It is really, really impressive what they've done.
Frank Schwab of Yahoo Sports joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio talking about the NFL. I'm curious your thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not a Cowboys hater. I'm not a Cowboys fan. I will say it is very funny when they lose in the playoffs because you always get that great B-roll of the Cowboys fans and their dejected faces. And it's objectively funny for somebody who isn't even really emotionally invested. But when you look at this Cowboys team, Frank, they're sitting at 10-4. Dak has seemed to kind of figure some things out. McCarthy's you got Kellen Moore out, and play calling duties have changed. Is this a different Cowboys team? Is this a team that is once again going to be like Charlie Brown in the football for its fans come the postseason? When you look at the Cowboys this year, is it different, or is it you think they are ready for another massive disappointment come January?
Yeah, the problem is they just turned into a average to below average team on the road, and the Eagles still, for all the Eagles' issues, they still have the inside track to the NFC East because of the schedule and because of tiebreakers. I mean, the Eagles play the Giants twice and the Cardinals once the rest of the way, and they do have tiebreaker advantages. So more than likely, the Cowboys are going to be the number 5 seed, which means the most likely path to the Super Bowl 3 road games. I've never seen a home road split like the Cowboys this year. It is weird and crazy. Bobby Belt over there in 105.3 The Fan in Dallas posted the stat, and it is absolutely crazy, that the Cowboys, there's never been, he went all the way back to 1933, never been a team with a plus 170 point differential at home and a negative point differential on the road. Well, that's what the Cowboys are. I believe they're plus 173 at home and minus 4 on the road. They're 7-0 at home and 3-4 on the road. It's just that they leave Dallas and they just become a different team, and I can't logically explain why. Like that, to me, it's absolutely insane how a team could be that much worse on the road, but they are. It's a thing now. And we'll see at Miami. I think that's a really good test for both teams because Miami needs quality win. But Dallas, at some point, this is who you are as a road team. We always have to treat the Cowboys as 2 different teams. Cowboys at home, Cowboys on the road. And Cowboys on the road, do I trust them to go to, like we talked about the teams, Philly, Detroit, San Francisco? No, I don't right now. Not the way they're playing on the road. They certainly have the talent. We've seen their upside. We've seen them play really well in some of these games, especially at home. But until they go on the road and prove something, I'm kind of out. I don't know that I trust this Cowboys team to make a deep playoff run because of their issues going on the road this year.
You know, Frank, I think it was last year there was kind of like an internet theme of like, oh, is the NFL rigged, right? Arian Foster said something as a joke, and people picked it up. It's like, oh, the NFL is scripted, and it became a whole thing. And I realize, obviously, the NFL is not scripted. But if it was, and the playoffs were to start now, obviously you got 3 more weeks of football. But, man, can we get Rams to the Lions, Matthew Stafford in Ford Field? Like, the Lions finally get over the hump. They finally, with their, with Dan Campbell talking about eating kneecaps and stuff, they finally get over the hump and get to the postseason and get a home playoff game, only to have Matthew Stafford on the other sideline. Can we get that to happen? That needs to happen, right?
Oh, that'd be great. That would be fantastic. I would enjoy that. And it's funny. I mean, it'd be a kind of a weird reunion because I think Lions fans, from what I know, Lions fans root for Matthew Stafford. They were very happy for his success. I kind of realized, well, you were the Lions quarterback. You didn't have a shot. You didn't have a chance to be good. So it's not one of those revenge tour type of things, but it would be great theater. And we can see it. It's definitely one of the matchups in play, and that would be awesome. That really would be fun.
Frank Schwab of Yahoo Sports joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. You wrote a couple of days ago about Lamar Jackson, kind of going back to the summer, because I remember we talked about it a ton. I am a Steeler fan, so I have ultimate respect for Lamar Jackson. Really wanted him out of the division. That didn't happen. But you kind of wrote about when you look at the quarterback play around the NFL right now, and then maybe with some hindsight, looking back at the offseason, how more teams did not make a run at Lamar Jackson where there was a potential. It's kind of vulnerable with the relationship with him and the Ravens, and now to see them at the top of the AFC and the way he has been playing at an MVP level yet again, man, boy, talk about some what-ifs this last offseason if maybe a couple of teams potentially made a run at a guy like Lamar Jackson, specifically like the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, if you are a fan of a team, and look, trust me, I watch every game every Sunday. I look up at those screens and I see some terrible teams with really, really bad quarterbacks. If you're a fan of one of those teams, you should be absolutely livid at your team's owner for not trying to win a Super Bowl, period. Like, the Atlanta Falcons are the biggest offenders, and it's not even close. So let's start with them just as an example, but they're not the only example, by the way. The Atlanta Falcons had literally the most cap room in the NFL. Like, I think they were number one. They had just a mound of cap room. They just said, nah, we're good with Desmond Ridder. And why? Like, they just chased Deshaun Watson the year before, so it's not like they were unaware that you could go after a quarterback. And what was it? Was it collusion? Because owners didn't want to give the Deshaun Watson contract again, this fully guaranteed deal. Well, that's not a great excuse. So then you're putting collusion with owners and keeping the players down over you trying to get your fans a Super Bowl, right? Is it just incompetence that you really truly thought Desmond Ridder was better than Lamar Jackson? Well, that ain't a good excuse for your fans either. Or it was being cheap? Because I know a lot of people, a lot of NFL fans, I know who are season ticket holders. I know what they pay. I know what they pay in PSLs and parking and all this stuff. So you cheap out? You're gonna really? I mean, I would just be livid if I was a fan because this would not have happened in any other sport. The people who, I hear a lot, and I don't know how fans have gotten brainwashed over this. It annoys me actually, that fans will just say, "Well, Baltimore was going to match anyway. Everybody knew that." Oh, so you don't try? You don't even put their feet to the fire? The Atlanta Falcons, for the obvious example, but other teams could have done this. The Atlanta Falcons could have made a contract offer that just blew away everybody else and just said, hey, Ravens, you know what? If you match us, cool. Hats off to you, but we tried. We're going to sleep all night. We have no regrets. You're telling me that it's better to be nicey-nicey with the other owners so you can go to your next owners meeting and Arthur Blank and be all smiley with everybody and is not uncomfortable and you try to be competitive in a competitive league? Like, the Ravens would have matched anyway. Who cares? If Giannis Antetokounmpo in the NBA was somehow available in a similar setup where any team would make him an offer, there's no chance that the Heat would be like, well, the Bucks are matching anyway. We're not even going to try. Or Shohei Ohtani in the MLB or Nathan McKinnon in the NHL. If these guys were like available in a similar setup, Every other team in the league would be making a plan of how can we make this guy an offer to make it uncomfortable on that team. Whereas in the NFL, everybody just said, Baltimore get their guy back. It's fine. Like, what are we doing? Like, it infuriates me. And it infuriates me more that so many fans have been brainwashed to believe that this was okay. This was not okay. This was either collusion, which is terrible, or it's just owners being country clubs, right? Like, we're just going to be friends with each other. We're not going to step on your toes and try to sign one of the 5 best players on the planet who right now has you at a number 1 seed and has you as a number 2 Super Bowl contender. What are we doing here? It is absolutely mind-blowing to me that now one team tried. They didn't try to get Lamar Jackson. Some team would have signed him $65 million a year. The Falcons could have made an offer that would be about $65 million a year. Yeah, that's $10 million more than Jalen Hurts. So what? Who cares? You're trying to actually win. Your fan base would have been through the roof excited. You would have made a lot of revenue based on Lamar Jackson because can you imagine how popular he would have been in Atlanta? And you just didn't even try. And that's my rant. I appreciate you listening to me because it is the most infuriating thing that has happened in this NFL year, and yet so many fans are just brainwashed to believe it was okay.
Well, I love it. I love the rant because I remember in the summer, kind of in the same, like, what is going on with this Lamar Jackson thing, and the fact that that the fans almost kind of even bought into not just we all know the Ravens are going to match, but then it was like the Lamar Jackson slander of like, well, he can't hold on long term. He's being his mom is his agent. He's not. It's like, take a look at this dude's numbers. He's been doubted from high school to college and now in the NFL. He beats you guys every single time. And like I said, I'm a Steeler fan. We got our own problems, Frank. But as a Steeler fan, I was like, I'm ready for this dude to get out of the division. And, of course, he isn't. And he's going to be in Baltimore forever. And we're all fighting for second place now.
Yeah, he's one of the most electrifying players we've ever seen. Like, I mean, I don't think it's even hyperbole. Like, this guy has rushed for 1,000 yards in the same year he led the NFL in passing touchdowns. Like, he's just from another planet. There's about 5, 6, 7 dudes walking this earth, and I hate to say the Steelers don't have one of them.
They do not.
Who are just above and beyond everybody else. You could put them in any team, any scheme, any coach, any teammates, and they're going to put everybody on their shoulders. And we all know the names, Burrow, Mahomes. Lamar is one of those dudes, and the NFL, this isn't just Kirk Cousins being a free agent. This was one of those dudes, and now he just went back to Baltimore without really a fight. Like, he got a fair market deal, and the Baltimore Ravens, as a Steelers fan, as any team, any fan in the AFC, any team anywhere, the Baltimore Ravens are going to just kind of didn't even have any, nobody even put up a roadblock for them. Like, they just easily, got their quarterback back, another number 1 seed, and they might win a Super Bowl. Like, what's the rest of the NFL? What's the rest of the NFL doing? It's supposed to be a competitive league, and you just let one of the best franchises in the NFL off the hook. It just blows my mind.
Frank Schwab of Yahoo Sports joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. One last thing before we let you go, Frank, because obviously there's the playoffs ahead, there's a Super Bowl ahead, and it's a lot of fun stuff to talk about. But there's also some teams that are already planning for next year. And one guy that we are very familiar with here in the Pacific Northwest, Justin Herbert, Oregon's own. He's looking at coach number 3 in his 4 years in the NFL, and a lot of rumors, right? There's the Bill Belichick rumors out there. There's the Jim Harbaugh rumors out there. When you look at the Chargers and when you look at Herbert, what do you think is the Bill Belichick thing in the mix? Is it a possibility? Is the Harbaugh thing obviously in the mix? Is that a possibility? What do you think the Chargers are going to ultimately do with Herbert at their head coaching position?
As for Harbaugh, I think we're going to be sitting here. You're going to call me 15 years down the road. It's going to be 2038, and we're going to be saying, is this the year Jim Harbaugh jumps from Michigan to the NFL? He likes the attention. He likes the fact that he's in the headlines all the time, and he can use this to get better contracts for the University of Michigan, and he's not leaving Michigan. I'm just done with this. I'm just done with the whole, every single year having to hear about Jim Harbaugh going to the NFL. When you do it, I'll pay attention, Jim. You're not, so it's okay. So I'm crossing him off. He's not a possibility for anybody until I see it happen. With Belichick, though, you can connect the dots, I guess. There's a lot of steps to go through. First, the Patriots have to part ways with him. I mean, we don't know that for sure. I mean, there's been a lot of rumors, but he's still the greatest coach of all time, and I'm not 100% sold that that's going to happen. Maybe 90, but not 100. And then, what do the Patriots do? Do they just hold Belichick and not let him go anywhere while they try to work a trade? I don't know. I think that's kind of disrespectful to the guy. I think it doesn't. You're going to hire a new coach with Bill Belichick still on your payroll. I don't know. I don't know how the mechanics of that work, but I can see why they would do it if you think you get a first-round pick or whatever for Belichick. So we need that, right? Then we need the Chargers to actually spend the money to go get a Bill Belichick. I don't know. The ownership's never really done that, so I don't know. But when you just look at the fit of Bill Belichick, he doesn't want to have a rebuilding team. He's not going to the Carolina Panthers. Why would you?
Yeah.
He needs his 15 wins to pass Don Shula and then right off into the sunset. And the Chargers are ready made. Like, you can win 10 games right away. The Los Angeles Chargers, the roster's right there for you. So it does make sense to me. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's surely, like, why wouldn't this all line up for Bill Belichick to go to the Chargers? It makes perfect sense for both sides, but a lot of steps to get before we get there. And in the meantime, I think the Chargers just got to, they tried Staley, a defensive-minded head coach. I think this time for sure they're going to do the opposite and get an offensive coach, whether it's Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson from the Lions, who apparently reportedly is asking for $15 million a year, which I think is crazy. But there's a few coaches out there. Find your next Shane Steichen, a guy who can really scheme up your offense and help Justin Herbert out. So we can finally see if Justin Herbert's great. Like, I know the stats are there and all that, but at some point he needs to be held to the same standard as every other quarterback, which is, can you bring your team back in the fourth quarter? Can you win games? Can you come through in the clutch? Can you win playoff games? He hasn't done that, and he's just gotten a pass for it. We need to see it. Get him with a good coach, whether it's Belichick with a great offensive coordinator or a great offensive mind like a Bobby Slowick, and then let's see what this roster can do, because it's about time that the Chargers need a good coach so we can finally see if this team actually could tap into its potential.
You can follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Yahoo Schwab. You can read stuff at Yahoo Sports. Hey, Frank, thanks so much. I appreciate your time. Have a terrific holiday. Have a great New Year. We look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy holidays. I appreciate it.
There you go, Frank Schwab. We have got a break. We've got a mailbag, and then we get out of here for the big holiday weekend. That's next, 620 Rip City Radio.
It's time for the RCM mailbag. With any question, any topic, Justin can't duck the tough question. What do we have first?
All right, a happy Friday to everybody.
Yes.
Hope everyone's getting ready for the Christmas holiday. I know Justin and I are. We'll be slamming some eggnog this weekend. Looking forward to the interesting Christmas that is. Justin, you mentioned it earlier in the show. Let's go ahead and put a bow tie on it. How are we feeling about Christmas on a Monday?
You know, I kind of like it. We're going to be off Monday and Tuesday, so kind of like getting it really extends out the weekend. And now I'll tell you, by Wednesday, I may be a little bit Christmased out. All right, that's
Knowing your household, that's possible.
potential. Because, like I said, I got Christmas activities tonight. I got Christmas activities tomorrow. Obviously, a Christmas Eve celebration, and then the big day on Monday. I think Monday's a good day. Also, like we've talked about this before. I mean, Christmas obviously it's not going to move around ever, but the holidays that do move around, Monday off versus Friday off is like so much better. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, give me the Monday off versus the Friday off in an extended long weekend. So that plus it's just like, you know, just the joy and the cheer and the Christmas spirit, if you know what I'm saying, is just extended that much longer. So I'm all for it. Pro Christmas on a Monday.
Yeah. No, I think I am too. It's going to be nice because we get a nice little breakup of the week.
Let's get Christmas Eve football. That's cool.
We get a short week next week. There's bowl games for me with interest end of next week. So it's going to be very, very short week. And just this time of year, I ain't going to complain. But let's go ahead and open up the mailbag today.
Yeah.
Gift cards or cash, and why?
Well, now that you could do the Visa gift cards, right, I think that's the way to go.
That's cash is king, but Visa gift cards are king?
Cash seems... A gift card shows a smidge of effort. You know what I mean?
And more than cash, it does.
Even though cash, like, the perception is different than the reality, though, let's be honest. Brendan, it's harder to get cash nowadays than it is to get a gift card, or it takes as much effort. I don't carry cash with me. So if I were to give you cash for Christmas, I would have to find an ATM, pay a surcharge on it, right? As opposed to I could get a gift card, I could just Amazon it. And I think you can get them in the mail. Or I think I can get you a gift card emailed to you. Like that's what we're doing with, so the old adage used to be like, oh, cash, it's so lazy. It's like, actually, to give cash shows a smidge of effort. You had to go to a bank or an ATM, or at least when you're at the grocery store, would you like cash back? Yeah, but as a kid, getting cash was always fun. But as an adult, yeah, I think. And if you're going to give a gift card, like, just give the Visa gift card. You know what I mean? Or the Amazon gift card where you can get everything. But yeah, in that battle, I think gift cards just still is just a smidge more thoughtfulness, I believe.
I think a gift card too.
I'll take cash though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
somebody wants to give me cash, I will take it.
I think it just kind of shows that you were at least thinking about what they might want and thinking about what they might like.
Yeah, but sometimes you can overthink it though.
You can, and I just feel like you're right. Like cash is like, this was what's in my wallet. There you go.
There you go, kid. Have something. All right, is that it? Wrapping up the big show? Let's do it. All right. So, big thank you to Frank Schwab. Thanks to super producer Brendan. And thanks to all of you. We are back at it on Wednesday. Have a terrific and safe Christmas holiday. And we'll be back on Wednesday here on RCM 620 Rip City Radio.